Well, we have got a lovely demo for you tonight. And as I said, if you've had the opportunity of downloading Shelley, that's great. If you're sewing along with me, that's great. Hi, Christine and Jean. And so we're going to make Shelley. Shelley is small. I made it deliberately small because I didn't want too much of a big project tonight. But you can make it any size you want to. So the dimensions that are in the pattern for the actual size of the bag are, you know, you'll just have to make those longer and wider if you want a bigger one. The other dimensions for the channel and all the other things are in the pattern and they won't change. So you can make this as big as you like. But as she is, Shelley, she's got waterproof fabric inside. You don't have to do that either if you don't want to, but she will take a child's or a couple of, if you've got boys especially with no tops, a couple of children's swimwear or, you know, whatever, or dirty spoons and stuff like that. You know, if you've had a picnic and you've had a knife or a fork or a spoon and they're still dirty and you've wiped them with a wet wipe, then you can throw them in there. So there's lots of uses for it, or you can just have it for something in your workroom. It's just a bit of a different way to do a channel to hold the drawstrings. So so we'll have a look at it, shall we? Has anybody made one yet? Because I know some of you like to be, you know, there you go. Nicola says, Shelley's a fab project. Thank you, Nicola. So I know you like to, your husband got it all downloaded for you as usual. That's fantastic. And if you buy the pattern, you will be entered. So if you buy the pattern, if you get the pattern free, it won't apply to you. But if you buy the pattern for just £1, and a loaf of bread was £1.25 when I went shopping the other day. So if you buy the pattern for just £1, everybody that buys a pattern will be entered into a prize draw, and Lizzie's got a special prize for you. The winner will be announced on the 31st of August. So if you haven't bought a pattern and you've not bought a Digipass and you're not a member of the gold group, Lizzie's gold group, go and buy the pattern, and then you could be in with a chance of winning a lovely, lovely book. So that's that. So I'm going to tilt the camera down so that you can see my desk. And I'm sorry if things are a bit higgledy-piggledy tonight, because we've had work being done in the house today. So everything has been all over the house, and now I'm hoping that it's all back in the right place. I don't think it is, but, you know, we'll see. Evening, Leslie. Don't worry about being late, because I was late. I was early in the wrong place, but late in the right place. Hi, Diane. So you don't have to worry about being late. It's not school. It's okay. You won't get a bad mark. Everything's fine. I'm going to tilt you down. You can see the fabrics that I'm using. You can also see my other pair of glasses, which I'm going to change to now, so I can see you a bit more clearly as well. Okay, bear with me then. So my phone's a bit tilted. Sorry about the hands. Still a bit tilted. Oh, there you go. I'm sorry you're going to have seasickness in a minute. Okay. So before I do anything else, I'm going to try again to get right. Yes, I can see it. We're live now on my laptop, because that's the only place now I can actually see your comments. So that's fabulous. Okay. All right. So we're making the lovely Shelley. So here's our pattern. And you can see it's a beautiful little drawstring bag, and it's got some kite detail on it. So what we are using tonight to provide that kite detail is Lizzie's, the kite shaped one of Lizzie's templates. Can you see that? I don't know. No, that's no good. That's no good. Yes, you can see it a little bit better on there. So it's the kite shaped one of the set. The other one is a triangle. All right. So yes, only to gold members. Yeah. So, oh, thank you, Elaine. She says, what a lovely pattern. That's really nice. So this one is the kite one, and we're going to use that tonight to make our kite shape. Now, I'm told that there are a number of these going to be available, so are available on pre-order. They'll be in the next few days. So if you want to buy one of these, go along to lizziecurtis.com and look at for the acrylic template, and you can buy it on pre-order, and these will be posted out to the people that buy them this week, next Monday, so that's the 22nd. So you will get your template by next week. All right, for the people who haven't got that or want to make Shelley before you know, before you get yours next week or whenever, then there is the template on the pattern, and you can see if I lay that over the top, it's a bit difficult to hold, but that is exactly the same. It's the same size, same shape, everything is the same. So the only thing is that we've got little holes in our template, and we'll see these being used in a minute. We've got a little hole at every point in our template, which we don't get on the paper template, but it's not a problem. It's still exactly the same, and you can use it. But this is very handy, and I will show you what for in just a moment. Okay, now you will forgive me if I do things in a slightly different order than that's on the pattern. It really does not matter what order you do these in, all right, because it all comes together in the end. So what I've done here to start with is that I've got my outer fabric. Look at that colour, isn't that gorgeous? This is beautiful, beautiful linen fabric. That I can't remember whether I got it from eBay or from Amazon, and it's always a bit of a gamble. I think sometimes when you see these things, you're always taking a gamble as to what the quality's like, but this is beautiful. And I've stabilized it with a medium weight stabilizer on the back. All right, so well, who knows whether it's back or front with linen, because it's gorgeous. Doesn't and then I've got some, look at this, look, lollipops. This is our beach theme after all for August. So lollipops in waterproof fabric. You don't have to use waterproof fabric. You can use cotton fabric, or, you know, whatever. You can use a shower curtain if you like. But this is a particular waterproof fabric. And then what I've done is to exactly the same on the, in the pattern itself, on the prepare the project bit, it won't tell you how many of each to cut out. You need to go to the template to know how many pieces you need to cut out for the kite. I'm going to put that away because it's distracting me. So, and you do need, we're going to make 2 kites, so you need 2 pieces in outer fabric, 2 pieces in a backing fabric, and you need the outer fabric stabilized. So that's 2 pieces in outer, 2 pieces in stabilizer, and 2 pieces in backing. So for my backing fabric, I've used Egyptian cotton that a lot of people have had now from Empress Mills, and if you haven't had it, have a look at that. They do a bundle, and it's very cheap and beautiful for this because it's very light. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is to take my outer piece of fabric, and I'm going to fold it in half. So I'll do that upside down to me so that you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm just going to fold it in half, and I'm going to make a crease, a fold along that bottom line. Can you see what I'm doing there? My phone is really on a tilt, and I'm afraid if is that a bit better? Is that a bit straight? I felt a little bit as if I was leaning off to the right. But yeah, so I don't know whether that's in the right place or not now, because there's a big bar across it. Oh, never mind. I can see that you're still there and you're listening to me, so, you know, hey ho. Lovely. Okay, it's fine, Kath Ann says. Thank you, Anne. I don't know whether that's the right place on. I touched the wrong thing then and had myself talking to myself. So I've made a fold, and that fold there is the bottom of the bag. All right, so that's the bottom of the bag. The only way you're going to be able to tell it for a little while is because it's folded at the bottom. So that's the front of the bag, the top of the front. And as we turn it over, exactly the same, that's the back of the bag. So for this particular minute, it won't matter where it is. But what we're going to do is leave that like that, and we're going to make our kites, because we need to place our kites on the bag. All right, I've got everything ready. So here I've got the wrong side of my fabric for the kite to the wrong side of the backing. Sorry, the right side of the fabric to the right side of the backing fabric. Now, with my backing fabric, it doesn't matter because it's white and it's the same both sides. But if you've got backing fabric, and I wouldn't use anything very special because you're not going to see it at all. It's going to be laid down onto your bag outer. All right. So I've layered these up, backing and the front there. So I'm just going to sew them. Now what I was going to show you with the template, if you can see that there, I'll just lift that up for you, is that when you lie the template on here, they've got a little hole, it's got a little hole all the way, and you can see a line leading from one hole to the other. It's difficult for you to see. But if I put it like that, can you see that it's got the 1/4 inch seam line marked, and there's a little hole at each point? And what we do with that, lay it over the top of our fabric, and I can use my heat erasable pen, and indeed it doesn't matter if it's not a heat erasable pen, and I can poke the pen through those little holes, and can you see what I've got there? I've got a little mark at each corner. So all I'm doing is sewing between those 2 marks at those 4 marks at 1/4 inch. And that means when you get there and you turn, then it's easy for you to see where you're going and how far you need to sew down each one. We're going to leave a turning gap in the one side. It needs to be about, I don't know, 1.5 inches or something like that, just big enough for you to get your fingers in to turn it. So as is our wont, I'm going to put a couple of pins in the side there. I can't get them. They're on a magnetic dish and I can't get to it. There it is. So we're going to put those double pins there to denote where we need to leave our turning gap. Okay, so I'm going to bring the machine in. I've moved a few things around, as I say, today, so I'm hoping that all is going to be well. There we are, clear my rubbish. Usually when I clear my rubbish, I can't find the things that I really want. Okay, so I hope you can see here. Now I've got little post-it notes on here for things that I need to tell you, so I can have a look at those a bit later. I think I've mentioned the one. Okay. Can you see where I am there? All right. And I'm going to set my machine at 1/4 inch because it makes it easier for me. And I'm going to start at this double pin here, go all the way around and stop at the double pin there. So I've got my turning gap there or thereabouts. Okay, if I can find my foot, we can go. Lovely. So we're sewing then, take your time. That's gone a bit too far, so I'm moving it back a bit. And stop with your needle down, turn around, and then go to the end. That's better. You're being a bit temperamental there, Beth. And turn around, you can move your pins out the way. If you struggle with doing this, or using the tape paper template, just measure and make your own little marks in there. And you know, we're just making kites. It's not going to fit anybody. It's not essential if your seam is not quite accurate. You know, it's just a kite after all. It's just decoration. So I'm just going to go up a little way, and then I'm going to reverse back a little bit and cut my threads. So that's our one kite sewn all the way around. Can you see? The light's not very good, is it? They threatened storms for us this afternoon, and we had rain this morning. We've had a little bit of rain this evening, but it's stopped again. So here's my template then, and I'm going to pop that on the top. And if I could find my pen again. You always have to tell me where things are, don't you? I've got a red one this time, that's all right. I'm going to put my little holes in. It gives me a good guide. So, as if I didn't have a thick pin. Gives me a good guide so I can just sew without worrying about where it should be. So I can put my pin back in. All right, is everybody okay? Relaxing with a glass of wine, Pringles and Kath on the big TV. Wow, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, is it? Wine and Pringles is fine. I'm not quite sure about Kath on a big TV. She's probably better on a small one. Can you tell me where your things are as well, Patricia? Okay, I'll keep a lookout for yours and you keep a lookout for mine, all right? Because I think then we can work together. I'm always losing things. I put them down and I haven't got a clue where I've put them. Okay, so let's do the other one fairly quickly. Instead of you sitting there watching me doing nothing, you know, gabbling on. So we've been having work done in the house, and it's been really exciting, but you know, it's like you want to get it finished, don't you, because you don't want everything hanging about. And so I've got quite a lot to do tomorrow. But that'll keep me out of mischief. And I'm going shopping for more furniture tomorrow, so that's exciting as well. There we go. So the next job for us to do, I'll pop this out of the way for a bit. The next job for us to do is to grab my scissors, and we're just going to trim the bulk of these seams off because we're turning this inside right side out, and these are quite sharp points here. You can see that that's really quite sharp, so we're going to cut the bulk of that fabric away because it gives us a nicer point. So on every corner, only for about ½ an inch, and don't go too near your stitches because you don't want to poke it through as you're turning. I've picked the worst scissors I've got in my scissor keeper. This afternoon, when I was getting all prepared, I had my lovely little rainbow scissors, but I don't know where it is. It's with Pauline's stuff. So again, with this one, just trim the corners. You don't have to trim the seams, just the corners. And then that helps to make nice points of our kite when we turn it through. Okay. So I'm going to grab my tool. I don't know where my pokey tool is, but I can grab this one. It's all right. Cut these threads a moment and turn it through. It's a bit fiddly, but it will go. I've probably not left a big enough turning gap. I seem to do that quite a lot. I underestimate. Or is it overestimate? I don't know. One of the two. I don't do it right. Love watching Kath. Oh, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you, Patsy. I love my rainbow scissors too. I've got a couple of different sizes, and I use them so often I never really find them again then until after I really want them. It's always a way, isn't it? So I've poked that through. This one's got a bit bigger of a gap, I think. So get your finger in there and just push it out. The most difficult bit is the pointy bit, because obviously that's quite narrow, but it will all come through. Just go gently though, because you don't want to, especially if you're using lovely Egyptian cotton on the back, because it is very fine. But if you're stitching, if you've trimmed a bit close to your stitching, then you could go through. So don't do that. It just means you've got to cut more kites and sew it again. Aww. So with the with the turning gap, all I'm going to do at this stage is just, I'm going to bring my mat in and turn my iron on. I'm going to give them a press, and all I'm going to do at this stage, just for quickness, is I am going to glue mine, and then it won't take me so much time. You don't want to see, you could put it under the machine and sew all the way around if you like, top stitch all the way around, but I've chosen not to do that, simply because I wanted to stitch it a different way. And if you've got the pattern already, you'll see what I mean. I want a 3D effect on this. I don't want like a plique that just sits down. I wanted these standing proud a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of I've got Gutermann HT2 here. I can never remember and all I'm going to do, it's fantastic stuff. But I've also got some of the stuff that I had from Abby a little while back, and I've also got some stuff that I bought from a lady in Australia. So, but you know, they're all much of a muchness. So give it a press. That HT2 will really stick, and I'm quite happy to put this in the wash with it on, and I'm confident that it won't come apart, but I don't want you to just take my word for that. If you feel that you need to hand stitch these down, or if you need to top stitch all the way around, then that's entirely up to you. You can do that before you actually apply them onto the back, the front and back of the bag. Just a tiny touch of this. You need hardly any. I think I've had this one about 2 years, and I do use it quite a lot, but you need so little that it doesn't really matter. It's going on forever. Okay, so then what we want to do is to place these on our front and back. So remember I said that the fold here was the bottom of the bag, and I tell you in the pattern how far down from the top you need to go. You need to leave enough space at the top, and also you don't want to go too far down to the bottom, because these are going to have tails on, and you don't really want them hanging too far off the end. A little bit is fine, but you can actually put them whichever way you want. You can have it straight, you can have it to the side, you can have it upside down if you want to, although I've never seen a kite flying upside down. But I'm going to pop mine a bit like that, and then I do really need to find that black pen. No, it's nowhere about. Who's had my black pen? Good job. I've got another packet over here that I can open and use. Because of the colour of this, the red's not going to show up very well. So I say to you in the pattern to put it in the place you want it, and then underneath the tip. Now I'm going to have to try and show you this so you can see. So I'll put it on this mat because it'll cling to that a bit. Underneath the tip here, can you see where I'm pointing? Right underneath. We want to lift that up slightly, and right underneath, put your pen, the point of your pen underneath, and just make a little line. All right, and then we're going in this direction, so we want a line there that's like that. Can you all see that line? Yeah? So there's the point, and we've drawn a line going up towards the centre. So start from underneath there and draw a short line up there. All right? And then what I did, which I haven't put in the pattern, is I put a tiny little dot there on that corner, just outside that corner, and a tiny little dot there outside that corner, and a tiny little dot here outside that corner. So I've now got the shape of my kite. All right, I don't know whether you can see these dots, but it's pretty obvious what I mean. So that when I come to put this kite back on in a few minutes, I know exactly where to put it in the position that I was happy with. All right, so I'm going to do the same on the back. bearing in mind that if you think, oh, I want it the opposite way, that will be the same as the other side. So do it exactly the same. Don't want it too far down. So again, go underneath your point, just underneath the point, you know, like a millimetre or something from your point. Draw a line upwards for 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Place a little mark on all your corners. And how well can you see that? I don't think you can very well, but... And then we're going to put our kites to one side for a moment. And we're going to grab our string. Now, doesn't really matter what you use. You can use ordinary string, which I've got some of here. You can use ribbon. You can use whatever you like. But I quite like this because it was just pretty colours. And so I'm going to... tells you on the pattern how much length you want. You can do it longer or shorter, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to open this up. And then the one end of my string goes on that side of my line, on the end of the line there, and the string goes in that direction. And so what I'm going to do is to take this to the machine, and I'm going to zigzag over that first sort of 3/4 of an inch or whatever it is. All right, I'm just going to zigzag over there. So I'm going to go from the top down about 3/4 of an inch and back up again, so that that's held in place. We want a fairly short stitch, but we want it a tiny little bit wider so it goes right across. Does everybody understand what I mean? So I'm going to turn it round this way so I can take it to the machine. Move that out of my way so I can bring this in. Okay. I never know quite whether you can see better if I turn it that way or whether I come towards me a little bit. Let me move that out of the way. Is that okay? Can you see that? Yeah, you can see very well, Deborah. Thank you very much. So that's great. Okay, so here's our little line. And that's the top of our bag. So the top of our kite is up here, and I've got my 3 little marks that I can see. So I'm going to put my tail obviously facing downwards, and I'm going to start there. All right. You don't really need a pin for this because it's really quite easy to hold. Pop that down, and we're just going to zigzag down. Now it flattens out this kind of cord that I've got. Doesn't have to flatten it out, it just has to hold it in place. And then I'm just going to reverse back up to the end and cut my thread. With my little scissors I can trim off that thread, and you can see how that's flattened out a little bit. But don't forget, my kite is coming down there like that. I can find my little... So my kite is coming down there like that. So can you see that this comes out of the end? Now, you're going to say to me, why didn't you just sew it into your kite? But it's very difficult to get that precise when you've got such a tiny little bit and you're having to put it the wrong way around. You have to curl it round inside so it doesn't catch in the seams. This is much easier, believe me. All right. Then I'm going to pick a different colour. And I'm going to have a tail similar length. You can have a shorter one or a longer one. You can have them different. No 2 kites are the same, really, are they? Unless the children insist on having the same, of course, like I did with my sister when I was little. She's got a different one than me. I want one. Do you remember saying that? Okay, so pop that on top of your mark. So there's my mark there. Can you see? You can just about see. And we're going to pop it at the top of the mark, and we're going to sew kind of down to the bottom of the mark. So my zigzag for this cord, which is, it's just probably like a piece of thick string, my zigzag is on 1.4 and 1.4 long and 4 wide, 4 millimeters wide. So anything like that is going to help. And then I'm going to reverse back up and snip your threads. No need to worry about locking stitches because you've done 2 lots of thread. So my kite, and I know this is upside down, is going to go like that. Okay, so that's those in place. I'm going to pop my machine back to a straight stitch because we'll be using a straight stitch next. So we're going to take this one first, and because you've made your little marks, you know exactly where to put your kite. And I'm going to pin that in place. I'm going to pin it over there. And you're going to say, why is it important where you pin? Well, because I'm going to sew across there and down there. So, okay. So take it to your machine. We want straight stitch. Now, if you prefer, you can do this hand stitch with just a running stitch. All that you're going to do is to hold this kite in place. So I have done one with hand stitching and it was lovely. There's no problem with it at all. But it's going to be too long for me to show you how to do that. So put my needle back in the middle, and I'm going to do a fairly short stitch. So I've just got it on 2 at the moment because you just need to hold it in place. It's not going to come apart, but you just need to hold it. If you want a longer stitch, that's absolutely fine. I keep forgetting that I've got an automatic button to move my foot up and down, my pressure foot. And I keep putting my hand to the back. Okay, so here we go. Now, if you want to draw a line, there's a bit of bulk at the bottom there, so she doesn't like too much bulk, does this machine? So if you want to draw a line, that's fine, but it's only a few inches. And I'm not going to come with a, what do they call it? A spirit level. And measure it. Sorry, I was concentrating a bit then. Okay, and so we've done all the way from top to bottom. And we're going to now do, I keep on going to the back there, don't I? All the way across. Just one little back stitch. And that's your kite held in place. I'm going to trim my threads, if I can find my scissors. Somebody shout, can you see my scissors? Love the kite. Isn't it sweet? I love this fabric too. It's got like a rubber ring on it, what do you call it, a life-saving ring, a bikini, some flip-flops, and a bag with an anchor on. It's just so nice, isn't it? What do we call these? Espadrilles, is it? Flip-flops, I call them. But I'm used to my dukey, Lizzie, you're right, absolutely. And I've been using this one a lot lately, and then for the last couple of days I've been using the dukey, but of course I needed zigzag, and my dukey only does straight stitch. So there's your kite, all in place, all right? And I'll show you later what we do just to embellish. I'm going to turn this around, find my other kite, and pop it on my little marks here. So I've got a mark here, so I'm more or less in the right place. Make sure that comes right out to the very bottom. And I'm going to pop a pin in. Anita says it's very cute. They are cute, aren't they? I mean, you know, I've got Lizzie to thank for her templates for this, because these templates are super. We've made so many things. I can't tell you how many things we've seen now. You will have, if you've looked in the groups and things, if you're especially if you're you know, a member of the MIM Facebook group page, then you'll see we've made so many of these. They're just brilliant. So many different things, from patchwork to applique to this kind of thing. So yeah, really. So they are in the shop now for pre-order. I can't stress that enough. So if you want it, if you think you missed out, you haven't. You can get it as quickly as next week. All right. So we're going top to bottom, bottom to top, doesn't matter. Doesn't like that bulk at the bottom. So just go careful with your machine. Just gently tease it over. It will go right up to the top. When we get to the top, slow down and then just do your little back stitch. One is enough. And I'm doing this in cream because I've got cream on the machine, rather than trying to change the thread. See, I've gone for it again. Oh dear me. There we go. So don't worry about what colour thread you've got. If you want to change your thread and use red, would look nice across here, wouldn't it? Or the colour of your tail maybe. Okay, that's it. So move her along a little bit. Just trim these threads off. And you can see that we've got our kite. Could you use the kite for a little pocket? Absolutely, of course you could. You could use the kite for a pocket. What you could do for that is to just sew from here down to there and back up again and leave this bit open, and then you've got a little pocket. You could even put a little press stud under there if you wanted to. Keep little pound coins in, or, you know, a key or something like that. So yeah, what a lovely idea. That's a great idea. Fabulous. Flying a kite on Bamborough Beach. Who's that? Who said that? Who's been flying on Bamborough Beach? Oh, Kathleen. I've never been to Bamborough Beach, but I've seen it on the television, on YouTube and things, and it's very lovely. Okay, so we've made sure we've got the top of the kites to the raw edges. Okay, now they don't have to be the same length away from the top of that edge, but I tell you in the pattern how much you will need to leave at the top of that edge, okay, because obviously we've got the drawstring. So we've got our kites in place, and now what we're going to do is we are going to fold this the other way. Make sure these are tucked in. Fold this in half the other way, because that's kind of about it really, apart from doing our seams. So now what we want to do, I'll show it to you that way because it's the same, but it's the right way around. There's your fold, so that's the bottom of your bag, okay, and there's the raw edge, so that's the top of your bag, and we're going to sew from here down to the bottom and from there down to the bottom. Now I have mentioned in the beginning of the pattern, right at the very beginning, note well that the seam allowances in this project are variable. All right, so for this we're going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and it will become clear why, unless you've already had a look at your pattern and you know very well why, which would be very, very efficient of you. Okay, so we're going 1/2 inch seam allowance, and we're going all the way down both sides. Don't worry about a back stitch at the bottom, we don't need it. But I am doing a back stitch at the top. Get rid of some of the mess. Okay, you didn't see that very well, did you? I didn't have it in the right place. I'm so sorry. keep forgetting to look at my phone when... Okay, so we've stitched all the way down, both sides, but we haven't stitched along the top, so we've got that open along the top. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to box the corners. So in order to do this nicely, neatly, and without lots of bulk, we are going to cut on that fold as close to the edge, as close to the stitching as you dare. So a couple of, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch or so away is enough. All right. And then we are going to, just bear with me while I grab my ironing mat. Sorry. Then we're going to iron these seams open. So put it flat, bring it towards you, and give it a good press at the bottom of where that fold is. Can you see what I'm doing? Oops, you could extend the tail, and Debbie, is there a bit more to come? Press send before you'd finished, because I'm always doing that. This kite would look good on Beatrice, just saying. Well, you know, you can put them on anything. We give you the pattern, you do the creativity. And don't forget, whatever you create with the patterns, we'd like to see them on the group. Yeah, I can't love all the mims, always try and watch. Yeah, it makes your Monday, doesn't it? Yeah, Debbie, yeah, I'm always doing that. I press the return key and think, oh, I didn't want that. I just wanted to go to the next line. So press your seam open. You get a lovely seam there. Do you know, actually, I've done that wrongly. So I'm going to have to unpick these seams because I forgot the next stage. I'm not doing very well tonight, am I? What I meant to do was to measure from the top, because we need the channel in these bits, don't we? I haven't got to take the whole seams out, so don't worry. We need the channel in the top, so I need to show you how to do that. So, there we go. So it's only a little bit that we need to take down, and I need to show you what to do. So don't do as I do, do as I say. My mother used to say that to me. Until I grew up and realised what she was talking about. Okay, so what we're going to do then, side seams take 2. Seems to be take 2 Monday today, doesn't it? I'm fab. I don't know. Some days I think I'm a bit of all right, and then other days I think I'm rubbish. But here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure down 1 inch from the top, place a mark, and then we're going to measure down another inch from the top. No, 3/4 of an inch from the top. Let me just check my pattern. Anybody think I'd never written this? Yeah. 1 inch from the top and 3/4 of an inch from the top, but it's all in the pattern, and the same on the other side. Okay. Because what we're going to do is we're going to sew down the 1 inch mark and leave the other bit free, because that's our channel. So I'll pull the sewing machine back in and we'll redo. We'll regroup. There we go. So I'm coming from the bottom now, just to show you where how I'm putting this right. It's good to see that other people make mistakes, and then how to put them right. It's not a problem, is it? It's just my my old age memory. So we're going to sew up to our first mark. We're going to back stitch. Oh, I've cut my thread, so let's go down again. Because when I go backwards, mine makes does a bit of lock-in stitches, so that's fortuitous. There we go. And up to the top. So whichever way you do it, from the bottom to the top sewing, you need to have made your marks. So what I've done is I've sewn from there to there, and I've sewn from there to there. So I've got a piece in the middle that's not stitched, and that's going to make our channel in the end. Okay, so I'm going to do the same with this one. I'll come down from the top this time. And then skip over, so this is what you would have done, to the next little line that you've made, do a back stitch, and then all the way down the seam. So that's what you would have done, or that's what I would have done had I been following the pattern, but you'll be following the pattern, so you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so everybody, you've got no complaints watching, enjoying and listening. We do it, yeah, we all do it. I do all sorts of funny things, but you know, there we go. So there's your little gap for your channel, okay? And we'll come back to that in a bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to box these corners, and I made this crease here quite marked because I want my side seam to be on top of my bottom seam. So what I do is, I don't know whether I can show you this very well. So I go where I think it is, and then I put a pin a couple of inches away, and I press it through, and then that's not quite on my, you wouldn't be able to see it, but it's not quite on my fold line. If you had a seam at the bottom, you can do the same thing. So you just need to adjust so that your pin is going through, which it is now, and then, whoops, taking the pin out, and then it will all be in the right place. And we're going to measure from the point. Now because you've split this seam here, can you see? Because you've split that seam, the point is right at the end of the stitching, so it's so easy to see. And we're just going to draw a line across so that we know where to stitch. So we're going to come to the machine again, and we're going to stitch along our drawn line. Okay, how are we looking? Gosh, 8 o'clock. Does that because I started late? Right, and then we're going to trim the seam, or the fabric to the seam, 1/4 of an inch away or whatever. Okay, and just do the same with the other side. Grab a pin, pop it through, and make sure it's straight. And then sorry if you can't see this, all I'm doing is measuring up so I can draw a line. I think you might be able to see me fiddling about. Don't feel rushed. Oh, bless you, thank you. It's because I was late starting, because Facebook was playing me up. So straight across, a little bit of a back stitch, and there we have our boxed corners. So we're going to take that bit off, and we're going to turn the bag through. Now, actually I'm not going to turn the bag through. What I'm going to do next is that I'm going to turn these seams under at the top. cut off my thread. So only for the first couple of inches or so, we are going to turn this seam under by 1/4 of an inch so that we make a smaller seam. But we're only going to do that for the top couple of inches. Okay? So we can pop a pin in there, or you can use a clip, whatever you want to. And the same with this side. Can you see what I've done there? I've turned this under by 1/4 of an inch. I don't know whether that's very clear there. Okay. I like a box corner too, so I think it just makes it look very professional, doesn't it? So I'm turning this under here, and then I'm flattening that down, and just for a couple of inches or so. Alright. And then I'm going to stitch from the right side. I'm going to stitch down there, across the bottom and up there, and you can see that my opening is there. So I'm going to go just beyond the opening, come across the seam and go back up. Does that make sense? My opening's there. I've turned these seams under by 1/4 of an inch. Don't worry about the rest of it, it'll all sit flat. And I'm going to sew, but from the other side, down past the opening, across the seam and back up. Alright? Now it's a bit fiddly, and of course you'd be better off putting your pins on the right side. So let's do that. And the only reason I say to do it from the front is essentially it's top stitching. So you just need to be aware of your neatness. Because I've undone this seam up here, I've got these little bits, but I can sort those out in a minute. Come on. Right. So I'm going to pop it under the machine, and I'm going to sew down the left hand side. And as I say, you can use contrasting thread for this. Mine's not contrasting. You can use matching thread through this. Mine's contrasting, so it really doesn't matter. So just beyond the opening, 2 or 3 stitches across the seam. Now you can't see what I'm doing, I'm so sorry, but I'll do it and then I'll show you. You'll be able to see because it's cream thread. So I've got lots of threads everywhere. You just have to ignore those because I'll get them off afterwards. There, that's a bit better. So you can see that I've sewn down there. Can you see that? Across there and up there. Alright, there's my gap and I've come down beyond it. So I'm going to do the same the other side. So turn your... The reason why I went to say turn your bag through first of all was because that's how I did it the first time, and then I found it a little bit more difficult, and I felt that it's easier to show you when the bag is inside out. So although I'm going to put a pin in now, when I turn it under, then I'll remove the pins. So do exactly the same on the other side, and then I sew from the right side. But it's good to see it from the back because I think it kind of shows you a little bit easier what to do. So then we stitch down, across and up, making sure that we go beyond our channel gap. I can take the pins out now because once you fold linen it tends to stay where it's put, especially if it's got a bit of stabilizer on it. And if your one side is a little bit more than the other, or you're afraid it's going to be, well, mark it. I've showed you on the pattern to mark it. Just measure down and mark it and put a mark there so that you know it's exactly the same on both sides. To me, nobody's going to be looking at that. I probably would have done it if I'd got more time. Alright, so We're pulling that through, and this really needs a big press, but I'm not going to worry about it for now. So there's your opening, and there's your stitching past it, and there's your opening, and there's your stitching past it. Only just a fraction past it, that's enough. We're going to make up the lining. We're nearly there, so can you bear with me for another 5 minutes? Looks lovely and neat, thank you. So with the lining, I'm folding that in half. I'm putting a pin there just to hold that, because this waterproof fabric is a little bit slippy. And it's a bit fine for a quilter's clip, a quilting clip, but you do whatever you like. I take the zips out I take the pins out before I get to them anyway. And I'm always lining up my sides to make sure that they meet, so it's no big deal. And this time we are sewing all the way down, but on the one side we're leaving a turning gap. So I'm going to pop that pin down there. I'm going to put another one by the side of it. Now I would leave, because that's linen and it's stabilised, I would leave at least 4 inches on this turning gap. It's going to be inside your bag, and we're going to stitch it up. So, and a bit of a test now. Can you remember what I said about the seam allowances? This one has to match the front, the outside rather, so this is a 1/2 inch seam allowance, okay? Or otherwise your lining will be too big. So I'm going to go down to the double pins, and then I'm going to backstitch, cut my threads. Don't have to cut your threads, just lift a presser foot and go down. And then I've just taken those 2 pins out, but they were there. A backstitch when you start again, so that all the stitching's not going to come apart when you turn it through. So then all the way down the other side. I'm a little bit way out again, aren't I? Okay, so we're going to do the same with the lining, and we're going to just snip that seam, that fold on that seam, I should say. I won't press this open, you know to press it open. We'll quickly box these corners, sorry, licking my fingers. I find it easier to open the seams for boxing corners. Now, you don't have to, but I find it easier too. And I haven't got the right measurement on this machine. I don't know why, or maybe I just haven't found it. But draw a line, because it does make it easier. Take it to the machine and just sew. The same with the other one. So don't put your turning gap too close to the bottom, because it will make it more difficult to do your boxed corner. Back to the machine. There we go. I don't know quite what all that was about. So trim off your excess fabric. Okay, we're 10 past, so I'm going to whiz through this next bit. What we want to do now is to pop the outside bag, right sides outside into the lining, the right side inside. So right sides together. We're going to open up those seams again at the sides and match those up. Can you see I've got that seam matched up? And this time I am going to use a quilting clip. And then, because we've still got the channel to do yet, so bear with me. Oh gosh, he's with his dad. He's in the doghouse today. He's taken to eating snails and they make him sick. So he's kind of having to be well supervised, my Frank. He's not a bad boy really, it's just that he can't resist a snail. And I thought Dachshunds were from Germany, but this one's from France apparently. Okay, so we're going to sew all the way around the top, and this time it's 1/4 inch seam allowance. What I'm going to do is to take my arm off, you know, take my table off and use my free arm. If you haven't got a free arm, go from the inside, because that makes it much easier. But I've got a free arm, and so for speed I'm going to just do it. Just go for it. 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. Make sure there are no kite tails to be seen. Make sure that your seams are nice and flat. Just checking underneath to make sure they're nice and flat. Some people put down poison. Well, he only goes into the garden unless he's out with us walking, but yesterday it was definitely snails. Okie doke, and now we can, where's my turning gap? There. We can turn it through. So there's just a few more bits of sewing to do. But I might not be finished by quite 1/4 past. I'm not going to sew this turning gap now. I'll do that again later. There's no problem with that. You can do it by hand or on your machine. And this is not tricky, it's just fiddly if you're using waterproof fabric, because it doesn't like to sit down. But tease, I'm not going to spend so much time on this because I've already taken up enough of your time, but tease your seams. You would normally press, I would press with my iron, but I'm just going to roll these seams in my fingers, because what we're going to do is to top stitch right around the top. And then we've got 2 little rows of stitching to do for our channel, and then thread our tape through. But I don't know where my tape is, so I might have to use a ribbon. Well, that wouldn't be so much of a problem, would it? But for the beach, it'd be quite nice to use some tape, wouldn't it? So make sure your lining is tucked well down in. Push it well down in the bag, like that. And then we're going to sew all the way around. I like to start at the side. Only about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to increase my stitch length. Come on. I'm going to increase it to about 3. So I am rushing now because I'm taking up far too much of your time. Just tease your machine over that bulky seam there, because you've got 3 or 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of fabric there. Your machine will take it though, because my Juki would take it easily, and this one is not so keen on bulk, but it will definitely take it. So then what we need to do, and this will take me just a minute, but I need to show you this, it's important. Move all my things out of the way. We need to get our heat erasable pen. Don't use anything else unless it's chalk or something. And then we need, there's our gap, so we need to draw a line, a straight line at the top of our gap, right the way around. Okay, and we're going to stitch on that, and this will make our channel. I'm sorry that this is rushed. So there's our, when it comes to the same size, so just at this point, make sure that this line is on the top of your channel gap. And I want them to meet up, to make sure that they meet up as well, and that the size is the same. Yes, so I've got exactly the same size. That was lucky, all the way around. Same distance from the top. And then I'm going to draw another line at the bottom. All right. So I have given you measurements, but if the measurements that I've given you don't quite just work out, then don't fret about it. As long as your channel opening is between these two lines, you will actually be fine. And that's gone a bit wider there. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, my hand is in the way doing this. I don't know how else to hold my ruler. So just join those lines up. Actually, I've gone a bit astray there. Let me go back over there and see. Yeah, it's gone a bit astray. I don't quite know why I did that. But if I was going to do it at all, it would be tonight, wouldn't it? Yeah, went off piste a little bit here. Trying to do it upside down for you. I'll blame you. Is that all right? We're all having a lovely time. Well, I'm glad you are. I'm having a lovely time too, but I'm conscious that you want to go and watch something good on the television. So all we're going to do, I know this looks a bit of a mess, but this side here looks better. We're just going to sew on both these lines all the way around, but you must make sure that your lining is sitting flat, because otherwise you won't get the ribbon or whatever you use through your channel. So I'm going to whiz down these. So talk amongst yourselves. You can all tell each other stories of your difficulties in the heat. One of the girls living in Scotland was telling us that there's a bungalow for sale in her road, and it would appear that it would probably be about half the cost of a new house here down in the southwest. And as it's cooler up there, I think I might be moving. She doesn't know yet that I might be living in the same street. So there could be another bungalow available because she might move out. Okay. So there are my channels. I can take my pins out. I would give this a very good press. Not too hot because of the linen. Don't want it to go shiny, but steam would be a great asset at this point. Alright, so I'm just going to slightly rub it over to get rid of those marks, but not going to worry about the rest of it. And watch your fabric, because this does bleach this a little bit, but I've found that after it cools down on this linen, it tends to fade away. So don't worry about the bleachy effect. And then I'm going to grab some ribbon. I'm going to grab some blue ribbon. Knocked over my starch as I went. And we're going to cut 2 lengths. And we're going to feed them through. I've got a big knitting bodkin here somewhere. There we go. So quickly do this for you to show you, and then you can scoot off and have your supper. Think of what I can spend the spare cash on. Wouldn't it be lovely? Wouldn't it be lovely? Now when you come to the seam, to the opening rather, just be careful, because you need to go on top of the seam for the lining. There we go. There we are. Go through one and then go back in and go through the other way. Give it a wiggle at the end so that you're between the outer and the lining, because that's what made your channel. So I'm going to tie that off and tidy it up when I've done the other one. Actually, I quite like that blue ribbon in there, do you? It's not bad, is it? And then this time we're going to start the other end. And come through, and then should find it easier on the second one because it's already opened the channel for you. Alright, so she said, there it is. So pull that through as well. Oh dear, come on. There we go, lost the end. Well, it's all happening tonight, isn't it? I must admit that this is a bit of a fiddle, but every channel's a bit of a fiddle, isn't it? Can't seem to. Anyway, you don't need to be shown how to thread a ribbon through the channel. It appears that I do need to be shown. I'll be getting the sack. There you are. It is take 2 Monday for me. There we are. Tie them off. Now, there is one little thing that I'm not going to do, but you can do. And I have done on the one I've got behind me, which I'm just about to show you. So there's your ribbons, and all we do is pull them together. Okay? Then if you want to tie them in a bow, you can. This is my original one, so I've got 2. And as you can see, I've put little bows on the bottom of the kite there. Can you see that? and the bottom of there. I was going to put another one further down, but and I hand stitched these on. If you want to glue it on, if you think that you're not going to be putting it in the washing machine or whatever, you can. And my last week's Mim I used to store my little ribbons. Look at those. They're a little stash. And if somebody wants to put up the link to Lizzie's Amazon shop, you can buy these on Amazon. They're as cheap as chips, and I've got the whole flipping lot. There's a big pile in there, so I had to use my last week's Mim, my beautiful Beatrice. And there we have it. So what do you think? Do you think it was worth waiting for? I don't know. I don't know. But they're quite pretty, aren't they? And like I say, these will take a child's swimwear. So if you want to make one big enough to take an adult or a man's pair of swimming shorts or something like that, you know, make it slightly bigger. So the dimensions around the top for the channel will be exactly the same. It's only the length and the width of the fabric that you use. And that is it. So I'm going to poke the camera back up, if I can. Oh, look at it. Look at it. There we are. All right, so this is Shelley. You could collect shells in it as well if you wanted to, especially if it's waterproof. So, but it was lovely to see you. I'm sorry that everything seemed to go wrong, but we got there in the end, and that's all that matters, didn't we? And it's entertaining. It's entertaining. You love the pattern, thank you, Mary. And yeah, so now then, my 3 little post-it notes. I have to remind myself because I always forget. If you're a member of the Gold Group, your Mim patterns are all for free. So it's worth joining the Gold Group if you're not a member. £6.95 a month, and you get 3 monthly patterns which are more complex or more interesting, or anyway bigger, and you get all the Mim patterns for free. Or you can buy the Digi Pass and you get all the Mim patterns for £3, or you can just buy the Mim patterns. But if you do buy a Mim pattern this time, don't forget you'll be put into that draw. Christmas Eve is one of our Gold Group patterns, so if you're not in the Gold Group, you won't know what I'm talking about. But if you've made Christmas Eve, it's our Mid-Month Madness pattern. Don't forget to put a photograph of it in the album, because one winner will be chosen at random for a special prize. Very special. Okay. And your templates are on pre-order. I've done that twice, so I'm not going to do it again. I told you it was twice Monday. So, oh, Wendy, that's very kind of you to say, worth waiting for. So, but there we go. I'm going to blame the heat. It's got nothing to do with my age whatsoever, and it's got nothing to do with my disorganisation and the work going on in my house. It's the heat. Anyway, it's a lovely evening. Thank you for joining me. Come back again next Monday. Well, Lizzie will be doing it properly. She'll be on next Monday, and then I will see you a week on Thursday if you're a gold member for Mid-Month Madness pattern. That's next Thursday. So if you're not a member, join now, please. Oh, and don't forget the bears on Lizzie's website, the Children in Need bears, because we want to get that 5,000 for Children in Need. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go onto Lizzie's website, lizziecurtis.com, and find the Children in Need bear patterns. You will love them. Anyway, bye. See you later. Bye-bye.